generations. And now, the power of two restores the one.
We got a bidet. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are talking to you about something pretty exciting. We went to Universal Hollywood over the last week or so, and one of the things that we got to experience was the VIP experience, which is a much more expensive thing to do at Universal as opposed to just the day admission. If you're wondering what the price is, I don't remember exactly what it was, and they kind of fluctuate depending on what day you go, but it's roughly around the price of buying two 1 day tickets. So kind of what I was seeing was we could do this experience in 1 day, not have to do it over two. We could do all the things that we want on it basically. And then, you don't have to pay for an extra hotel a night or anything like that. So, there's a lot of win-win-win stuff here with this tour. And so kind of what we're going to tell you about is what was our experience and also what can you expect if you are to go on this tour. So, first things first, Sarah, would you recommend doing this tour?
I absolutely would. I feel like it made it so that we could do everything in the park that we wanted to in that 1 day, with the caveat that we missed a show. But we also did a lot of shopping, so I feel like there was wiggle room where we could have fit in that show if we were really trying to squeeze in everything in just 1 day.
Now, I need to separate a couple of things there because when you say shopping, we didn't do shopping when we were on the tour. We did
Right.
shopping after the tour. So the tour itself is about 6 hours. So by the time that you check in and then you go off and do your thing, which it's divided into two segments. For one segment is doing the rides, and the other segment is doing a more hands-on studio lot tour. And so what you do is you arrive, instead of going straight into the park, you would veer off to the right at the entrance and it says VIP above the door. You'll go there, you check in, they'll give you a little card that says, who your tour guide is, what time you're supposed to be there, and then while you're waiting, you can go snack on some things at the little buffet that they have. We went early in the morning, so like around 9:30 I think was our tour. And so they had a breakfast there for us. So you wait there, you wait till your guide shows up, and
There was one
then,
other important thing that I thought was worth noting that we got to do right when we checked in was
oh yeah.
the Toad Cafe reservation. And I might not quite have the name right for the cafe there, but it's really hard to get into that Toad Cafe, and you have to scan a QR code at the restaurant to be able to book a reservation to come back, even though it's quick service. It's that popular that it's that hard to get into. However, they had a QR code right there at the spot where you checked in for the VIP experience. So we were able to get a reservation for essentially whatever time we wanted during the day. And we didn't have to go down to Super Nintendo World first to get the reservation for later. So even that, I think, saved us a lot of time.
And mind you, Super Nintendo World is like the farthest back part of the theme park anywhere. So like you have to go through the upper lot, you have to go down the four escalators, then you got to go through the lower lot, then you get to Super Nintendo World. So it stops you from having to run all the way back there um, and checking in. So yeah, that is big. They also give you a poncho for Jurassic World because you will get wet on that ride. And you can also, if your group happens to go to the show, Water World, you can wear it there too. One thing I want to point out that's important is even when we go to tell you what happened on our tour, your tour could be slightly different. And here's how. One, your tour guide will decide whether you do the lot tour first or do the rides first. And whichever one you do first, then you go to a lunch or dinner, depending on what time you go. And then you do the second half with your guide. And also, when your guide, at least from what ours did and what I saw from all the other ones, your guide goes around the room trying to find who is in their group, and they introduce themselves, they want to know your name, and they also ask you, if there's something that you want out of this tour, what would it be? Now, us, we've never been on the tour, we've never been to even California at that point, and so we were like, we don't know. We're just here to experience what it is. But in hindsight, like, if for our tour, one of the two things we didn't do, like Sarah said, was the Water World show and the Despicable Me ride. But if it's something that you really want to do, let's say you want to go and see the Water World show, which there was only two showings per day when we went, they would find a way to work
Part of,
that in.
part of that might be, though, I think we forgot to mention, we did this tour on a day where there was the Hollywood Horror Nights also. So the park closed early for that special event. I think if it was a regular day where the park didn't close early, we would have been able to check off everything on our list in one day easily.
Well, also to be fair, because of course we're going to talk about how our tour went and what we did. But I would also say, because we ended our tour around 3 o'clock and the park closed at 6, like Sarah said, we could have absolutely fit the last showing of Waterworld in with the last ride that we did not do. Now, here's the reason why we didn't do the Waterworld show on that day. It's because when we booked the the dinner at Super Mario Land, we didn't realize that, the plans were going to shake out the way that they did. Now, if we didn't have that reservation, we could have made the second Waterworld showing, saw it, we could have went to Despicable Me, rode that ride, and had done everything in the park. And so yes and no. I think absolutely you could do every single thing in the park in one day on that tour, especially if you mention to your tour guide, hey, I would like to go to the Water World show. That kind of basically guarantees that you will do everything if they get that in there. The other side of that too, because like I said, our tour did not have the Water World show initially, and also the Despicable Me ride, but your pass, it has a barcode on it, so you get a lanyard with the pass on it that says Universal Studios Hollywood VIP. On the back of that, there is a barcode that is an express pass for the entire day. So after your tour is over, then you get to go to the front of the line for any ride that you want the rest of the day. So that's also a huge perk. If there's something that you didn't get to do on the tour that you would like to do, you can jump straight to the front of the line. So,
Or if you just want to do it again.
right. Yeah, we did that too. Uh, So let's go ahead and talk about what happened on our trip, like ours specifically, and what can you expect? Well, our guide decided that we were going to do the lot tour at first, then go to lunch, and then we were going to do rides. And so we walked through the park until we could get to the tram area where we would get on our tram, and he told us little bits and pieces of trivia along the way. Um, but once we got to the place that you get on the trolley is where the backlot tour is. So if you don't have the VIP, you'd go on to the lot tour with I think there's like three of the car things that are connected together, and a whole bunch of people get on it. If you're on the VIP, you get your own private trolley, and your group has a max of 13 people in it, but when you get on the trolley, there's a good chance if you're like our group where you will combine with another VIP tour group. So they put two sets of VIPs on one trolley. And on that trolley, there is free water if you want it. It's really nice because there's not a lot of people. You have to look over when you're trying to see all the other things that are around you. Um, just all around a very great private, well, I should just say more private experience than doing the regular tram lot tour. Um,
On the biggest perk of this VIP tour, I would say, is that you actually get to get off the trolley to walk around on the film sets. So we got to see the clock from Back to the Future and the little diner from Back to the Future, and they had just shot some of the new TED show recently. So they had like the school facade up there, so you could kind of like walk on the school steps. And some more classic things too that are, there's kind of a wide range that they told you about various movies that had recently filmed here or that had filmed here a long time ago. Like I know Back to the Future wasn't a recent movie, that was an older one, but there's still stuff from those sets that are there that you get to walk around, and that I thought was pretty cool.
There was even a part of the lot that we didn't get to go to because somebody was filming a music video while we were there. Now we could kind of see way off in the distance, the crew and everything that were working on it, but we didn't get to actually drive up there. They weren't even allowed to tell us who was there, just that something was happening. It was a music video, and that's about it. Now, if you're looking at the picture behind me where it shows a trolley approaching some filming and then, they're doing an action sequence, I highly doubt that will ever happen because, if we can't approach a music video, the day before we were there, that group did not get to go into certain areas that we went to because of the TED filming. So the trolley tends to avoid active filming. So I highly doubt you're going to see something like what's behind me on the tour. So just heads up. But yeah, like Sarah said, you get to get off the trolley, you get to walk around. Um, I believe the trolley the driver kind of makes his way to where, after you're done walking around, where do they pick you up? And you keep going. You do everything that you would do on the normal tram lot tour with, the three cars combined together, plus getting off. So if you're wondering, do you get to do the rides that are a part of that lot tour, like Fast and the Furious and King Kong. Yes, it is. The trolley is built so that it can go right into those things and you can experience it. Do you get to go see the earthquake presentation? Yes. I think there was, oh, and the flooding sequence. Do you get to see how rain and all that works in Hollywood? Yes. But if it's kind of like our experience, some of that stuff might be down. So, for instance, we did not get to experience the shark coming out of the water for Jaws because they were working on that specific area, trying to do some repairs. So, there is a chance that some of the stuff will not be working. It just depends on the refurbishment um, time periods. Uh,
Before we move away from the tram tour, something else that I want to note that I think was nice as being part of the VIP group is that our guide, or both the guides really, because we were with another group too, they are more than willing and offering to take photos of you and your family with various backgrounds. And they did that, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 times in different areas. I know they got our picture in front of the Hogwarts castle. We got our picture in front of that Back to the Future clock slash TED school that I mentioned. We got to get our picture in Nintendo Land. So it is them using your phone, so you have immediate access to it. It's not just like a photo pass that you have to pay for later. And I thought that was a really nice touch because it only takes like 30 seconds for somebody to take a picture for you. But that way, all of your pictures aren't just selfies of you and your family. And I don't know. There's something more magical, if you will, about the photos not just being selfies to me, and you can get capture a lot more of the background that way too.
right. And they don't just take one picture, at least our guide took like one from here, one from here, one from here, and he like walked closer to you and took more pictures. So, um, I think they've been around long enough to know how to please the people on the tour. The other, I want to say probably like the last thing on the tour that is specific to this like backlot tour, because I don't want to tell you all the trivia that we learned because that'd be something cool for you to experience as well. But the last thing that we did on that tour that the people that don't have the VIP get to do is the prop house. So you get to go to the building basically where they store a bunch of props, and you get to walk around and see what's in there. Now, in my opinion, it wasn't the most exciting thing. Just like in hindsight, it's like, oh, we're gonna see these cool props. We're gonna recognize all these things from the different movies. Not so much. It's more or less like the furniture that they use in movies and whatnot. There was a couple of things that were, different than just regular old furniture that we saw, but essentially what we learned was that, filmmakers get to come here, look at what they want. It says right on the tag, how much it is for a week, how much it is for a month, so on and so forth. And then, they put their order in and it gets taken to the warehouse that they are filming. And that's basically it. Um, is there anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. There was one or two things that, they mentioned were from specific movies, various thrones really, but the rest of it was not as exciting as I was expecting.
Honestly, and I'm not saying this to bash on the this part of the tour, but it felt more like I was walking through an antique store, just kind of seeing furniture, old books that I have no idea what they are, and it that's kind of what that felt like. It wasn't, oh my God, this is the clothing that was used during Lord of the Rings, or oh my God, this is Harry Potter's wand. No, nothing like that. It was, is
It's
there a
funny you say
way to
that because to me,
recognize?
it felt like I was walking through a Goodwill because everything was priced and just scattered everywhere.
Well, I mean, antique store, Goodwill, they're similar. Um, but yeah, that's kind of what that felt like. Not to bash it, I'm sure there's tons of people that love that experience, but I will say if there's one thing I would say that didn't quite meet expectations, it was that because I was expecting to see like a dinosaur animatronic or something from Jurassic Park, like something that would have just blew me away. And there really wasn't a whole lot in there that was like, whoa. It was more like, oh. Okay. And we just took like one small lap around it. We didn't actually like dive deep into that warehouse and just kind of got a glimpse of it. So yeah, after that lot tour, we were a little ahead on time, so we went to the Kung Fu Panda show, and then I believe after that is when we went to lunch,
I think we rode the
which,
Harry Potter rides before lunch.
oh, I think you're right. Yeah, I think we did the Harry Potter rides and Kung Fu Panda and then went to, or I think we squeezed in Simpsons as well. I can't remember. Um, just because we did a couple rides before lunch, but then afterwards, we went to lunch and finished the rides later. But so lunch, we went, I forget the name of the restaurant, but it was a character dining buffet, essentially. Dracula greeted us at the front door. He asked us where we were from. We said Michigan, and he knew, who the Spartans and the Wolverines were, and asked us about, which ones are we fans of, and then said that they would be good to eat and suck their blood, basically. And then we went and sat down. Um, the buffet I thought was nice. From what I've heard in reviews, it's one of the best places to get food from at Universal. It is not like a private dining per se, just because other people can just walk in and get the buffet too. It's not like the waiting area for the VIP where only VIP people were there. I'm pretty sure this restaurant was more than just that.
From what I'm researching just now, because I was trying to figure out the name, uh, this is gonna sound very cringy if you know actual French, I'm sure, but it's Jardin de Paris. It makes me think it's supposed to be Garden de Paris, but it's spelled with a J. I don't really know how to pronounce it. But from what I'm seeing is that it's exclusive to people who are on VIP tours. The
Really?
average ticket person cannot just go into this restaurant just willy-nilly. You have to be one of the VIP members to go in.
Interesting. I did not know that. It makes me wonder then, like, because we went there for lunch, could we have walked in there for dinner? and paid for it.
That I'm not sure because one of the perks of this dining experience was that they had coolers of bottled water and like cans of pop and whatnot, and you could take as many as you wanted. There was alcohol at a bar that you had to purchase if you wanted that with your lunch. But the regular pop and water, I even asked somebody, I'm like, hey, can I just take some of these waters? Then they said, sure, take as many as you want. And so,
So
you
she
know,
did.
so no, I only took a couple. But I mean, there's only so many you can carry. But it was just nice to be able to stock up on water for the day and not have to constantly be looking for water fountains and whatnot. But anyway, having that all you can eat buffet and then also drinks like that that's you grab as many as you want, I think it makes sense as to why it's so private and exclusive then.
Yeah, that's interesting. I did not know that that was another private thing. I I didn't feel like it was anything beyond a character dining, except for the food was good, I will say. I more or less took it as being able to sample a bunch of foods that I've never had before. I know I've read reviews where people say this place is really great, so um, I'm not saying it's just your average character dining. I think the food was actually legitimately good, so um, yeah. So we did that dining. When we went to lunch, our tour guide left us, said be back in an hour at this spot. So, Sarah and I finished eating around 20 minutes into it, and so we kind of just walked around the park for, the next 40 minutes or so.
Mind you, we also knew we had that Toadstool Cafe reservation only like 3 or 4 hours later, so we were trying not to overeat so we
Right.
could still experience the other restaurant.
Exactly. So you can kind of make heads or tails of whatever you want to do with that, but let it be known there's plenty of good food there to eat. I'm pretty sure there's some people in our group, 'cause I think we even waited for them, that stayed there the whole time and, just kept eating more and more and just conversating with each other. So, uh, yeah, so you get to go there for about an hour, and then we went to go do the rides. And we did basically all the rides. As you go through, like once you approach the rides, our tour guide asked, does everybody agree to go on the ride? And if you do not want to go on the ride for whatever reason, um, you just kind of sit off to the side while everybody else goes on the ride. You do not wait very long because every time that the tour group goes into these lines, they get to jump basically to the front. They get to use that express pass essentially. So, I know Sarah sat out on a couple for like motion sickness with screen rides, and other people did too. Some of the people had not experienced those kinds of things before, and once they did, they were like, "That's enough for me." And so, it's not just one or two people that sit out. There was at times even half the group that sat out on some of them. So, um, needless to say, if you want to set out on a ride, don't be afraid to say something because other people will too. But we went through all the rides, essentially starting with the upper lot, heading down to the lower lot. Our last ride of the day was supposed to be Mario Kart, but it was down. And so that was around 3 or 3:30. And our tour guide turned to us and basically said, like, it's kind of up to you what you want to do. We can part ways. If you want to try to get into Water World, we can all go there. Um, or he said he was more than happy just to wait in front of Mario Kart to, wait for the ride to open. And so Sarah and I, because we had that reservation, not too far after this instance where we had to wait. I think most of the group went to Waterworld to go see the show, which was on the complete opposite end of the park. There was no way we were going to go there, see the show, and come back for our reservation. So we hung around. I
I think a
think,
couple people went over to Hogwarts too because they were most
yeah.
excited about seeing that for the day.
Yeah, because I saw a couple of our group mates later on all decked out in robes. So and they made it apparent a couple of times on the trip, like, hey, when do we get to see Hogwarts? So, you know, I would just say plan your day in a smart way, and that sounds kind of weird, but what I'm saying is if you do it early in the morning like we did, right when the park opens, you'll have a chunk of time at the end to do whatever you want to do, and you have basically have done everything in the park. So I 100% think it's worth it with that in mind. But Sarah and I, our dinner reservation was about an hour out uh from when we parted from our group. So we just kind of went shopping for a little bit and we kept our eye on the Universal Studios app to see when Mario Kart was back and running. It got back up and running in about 20 minutes, so then we went back over there. We rode the ride, did a little bit more shopping, and then finished the day eating at the Toad's Cafe. Um,
Did you mention the different characters we saw at lunch aside from Dracula?
I don't think so. We saw Dracula, we saw Doc from Back to the Future, and I don't know her name, but the taxi driver from I Love Lucy. And they were very much in character. I have never seen I Love Lucy, but the taxi driver kept saying how she's looking for a red-headed woman that looks like this, and uh, it looked like a voodoo doll of I Love Lucy, but I don't think it quite was a voodoo doll. Um, but what I thought was interesting was after we had left the group and we were done with the tour and we did some of our own things and we went back up to the upper lot, we passed by this restaurant again. And when I looked over, I actually saw the I Love Lucy character at the dining experience. So I think they even switch out some of them every now and then. Because I even saw Dracula out in the open later on.
Yeah, I think they, in the process of taking breaks and whatnot, cycle through who's at what restaurants or who's just walking around.
Yeah. So, a little recap. We went on the tram tour, did all the VIP stuff with that. We went to lunch, and then we rode all the rides except for the Minions ride and the Water World show, which you had plenty of time to go and do those last two things afterwards. Our tour guide did explain why he did not take us to the Minions ride. And that was the Minions ride. If you haven't been to Universal, the Minions ride and the Simpsons ride are very similar with how they are motion emulators. You know, you sit in something and it feels like you are going along with the screen. And not everybody likes those because of motion sickness. So he felt they're very similar to one another. He's just going to take us to one. And if we want to go to the other one with our express pass later, we could do that. So, which I thought was 100% fair. No need to make people like no need to make the people that don't want to ride it wait that extra handful of minutes just to say we did that thing. You know, the people that want to do it had plenty of time to go and do it. Was there anything else that you want to talk about from the tour? Anything you thought was noteworthy or really made you enjoy the experience?
I just feel like it was a great value. A lot of times when you buy express passes, you just get to be at the front of the line for most of the rides, and that's all fine and dandy. But to have a personal guide take you from one place to the next with all the fun trivia, you get off the tram on the lot tour, you get to have breakfast, you get to have lunch. It's actually good food. It's not just like an Uncrustable sandwich or something cheap. Um,
How dare
you
you spit in the face of Uncrustables?
I feel like there was a lot of value and they made it seem very exclusive. And yes, it was expensive, but it wasn't like $1,000 a person expensive because the VIP tours that I've heard about for Disneyland are significantly more money than this experience at Universal. So I just think it was a good value.
I would agree. If you are contemplating going to Universal and needing 2 or 3 days worth of admission passes or tickets, cut down on one or two of them and just do this. If you're flying in and you don't live in California and you're kind of on a budget and you don't want to stay too long because of hotel stays and the meals that you have to accommodate for, this is a great way to see everything that you need to in the park and then some. So, 100% zero, absolutely zero regrets going on this thing. Sarah and I were trying to, so we love going to Florida's parks, and so we were trying to think, how can we basically one and done this kind of situation? This was perfect, especially if you want to experience Universal Studios and you're not too sure how you're going to feel about it. This is perfect. You get everything. So, yeah. So that was our discussion on the Universal Studios Hollywood VIP experience. We both highly recommend it. We are going to be talking about more stuff from this trip. We got the Halloween Horror Nights video coming up very soon as well. And with that video, I will say we did the VIP tour the first day and we did Horror Nights the next day. And all we bought was the Horror Nights ticket. So the Express Pass, get in a little early pass.
Yeah,
Between those,
the after 2 p.m. Universal Horror Nights Express Pass.
between those two things, we did everything we wanted to, and then we're able to just sit around and do whatever we want. Needless to say, if you do just those two things on 2 days, you'll have the whole thing covered. But we're going to talk about that more in our next video. So if you enjoyed this type of video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Drops a like if you liked the video, and drops a comment letting us know your thoughts on the VIP tour. Do you have any questions? And I say that with emphasis because there's a lot of things that I tried to research and see what was on these tours, and everybody gave in general answers that never actually answered my questions. So, if you have any questions, throw them in the comments, and we will let you know. Um, we did it, and we can pretty much answer anything that you want. But then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.